Hi everyone, and welcome to episode 4 in our Santa Claus video game that I released over Christmas. So over Christmas I released a small, very small game of Santa Claus running around as a little platformer game. And I thought I'd show you a series of how I made it. So you can play along and create the same game or tweak it and continue it further. You can download all the assets required for this project in the description below. Plus, you can also find a link to the actual game itself where you can download and play it and test it out and play for yourself. If you want to watch the first 3 parts now, I recommend you go do so. Otherwise, let's get started. So, in this episode, we're going to continue with our attack animation stuff. So, we've done the attack animation and the actual inputs for it. We're now going to make it so that it releases a snowball out as a projectile. So for this we need to make an actual projectile object. So I'm going to go and right click and new blueprint class and choose actor. And this will be called a snowball. In our snowball we're going to open it up and we're going to add a few things to this. Component list. We're going to add a static mesh for the snowball itself. And we're going to choose just a sphere for this. And make it a bit smaller. And we're also going to add a sphere collision. And we're going to also add a projectile movement. So for projectiles, you want the collision to be the root. So click on the collision and drag it up to the scene root. Oh, hang on, before I do... Actually, no, straight ahead and do that. So drag it to the default scene root and say make new root. With that done, we can now reposition the mesh so it fits more inside our sphere collision, like so. Now projectile movement, it should be surface to the top, meaning that this is now a projectile. So for this, I'm going to say my initial speed for this is 500 and a max speed of 500. We don't want it to use gravity. We'll tweak this later, but I don't think we'll start with gravity. So we'll do 0 for the gravity scale. And we don't want it to bounce, so we'll leave that there. And we'll just make sure that velocity has got x as 1. Okay. Click compile, and that should do it. So now to actually throw the snowball. Now the montage we've got for throwing, we want to set up when it wants to actually release the ball. So let's find that point on the animation. So it's about there. Okay. So there, I want to right click on the notify section. So it says notify is here. I'm going to right click here and add notify. And I'm going to do a montage notify. Click on montage notify and you can change the name of this to be release snowball. And we'll click save. Close that and go into our Santa. Now on our Santa, you'll see we have on notify begin, on notify end, and the notify name. On notify begin, we're going to do print string to see if it actually is working correctly. So push play, and as I attack, you see the hello being printed in the top left hand corner. So we've got that working. So now we actually create the projectile itself. Now the projectile is going to come from his hand. So we need to determine where the hand is. Now the best way of doing that is on the skeleton. Open up your skeleton and find the hand that's going to be used. And it's going to be this hand, the right hand. So find the right hand and right click on it and choose add socket. And we're going to leave it as right hand socket. Click save. Close that. And on the notify begin, we're going to do create, spawn actor from class. And we're going to choose the snowball actor. Now the spawn transform, we'll need to put something for that. Doesn't really matter too much because it's going to change, so we can just do get actor transform. That'll do just fine. Because we want to attach it to the hand of the player. So when we spawn it, we're going to snap it to that location. Actually, no. With the snowball created, we need to set up what spawn transform we're going to use. And that's going to come from that socket. So we're going to right click and do get socket transform. And we're going to choose one with the mesh. Plug that into spawn transform. And in the socket name, we need to type in the name exactly how it is in here. So it's called right hand socket with capitalized letters at the start of each word. So plug that in and that will spawn it at that socket's position. Hit play and you can see a snowball being thrown out. Okay, so kind of there, okay, but what I wanted to do is it's using the socket a bit too religiously, okay, so it's releasing from the hand at a weird angle, which is probably realistic, but I want it to come out and go in a direction that the player is facing. So let's go into our Santa here. And let's change something in this transform. So disconnect here and split the transform. And we'll split it up here too. So our location's the same, so drag the location in, so like that. The scale will also be the same, so drag the scale in like so. Next, I'm going to change the rotation. So the rotation of it is going to be basically 0. So I can leave rotation at 0, 0, 0. Let's see how that looks. And I've now got it flying, but stuck in one direction, rather than using the direction of the player character. So instead of using it as 0, 0, 0, we need to use the camera's rotation, the player's rotation. So right click and get actor rotation. Like so. Now the balls were quite small, so let's make the spawn scale here a bit bigger. So rather than using 1, let's go and use 5, 5, 5, and click compile. Let's see how that looks. Whoa, a bit too big. So let's make that a bit smaller. So let's 111, was 111 okay? Let's check that. Oh yeah, 111 was fine. It's just the socket I think was the wrong scale. And now we've got snowballs coming out where we want it to actually go. But as you can see, they're hitting the player character. So what I want to do is make sure they can't collide with the player character. So what we need to do is go onto our snowball and tweak our snowball actor's collision. So first thing we need to do is click on the static mesh, and we're going to tell the static mesh to use no collision. So where it says block all dynamic, just change it to no collision. Compile that. Then go to sphere, and the sphere is going to be the thing that we change here. So open up and expand the collision presets, and we're going to change this to custom. Now on here we see it's got overlap everything. Now overlap everything is fine, that's all we want it to do, but for world static we're going to tell it to block. So that means it will hit a wall and it will hit it and stop. So close that and close that, and when it hits the wall it should stop it. Now obviously it's not getting destroyed like a real snowball does, which we need to change. So let's do a hit event. And when it's hit something, no matter what it's going to hit, it's going to be destroy actor. So let's just destroy the actor. There you go. And what we can do is we can make this thing spawn particles and whatever effects we want on the snowballs. There you go. Okay, so where we have basic inputs and attack animations for our attack, and also have the projectile itself spawning too. So we can now use those projectiles to determine hits against things like enemies and objects to progress further in the level. And that'll do it for this episode. thanks very much for watching. If you want to watch the next episode where we start building levels and building out some features there, watch over on patreon.com/RyanLady when you catch that episode, plus all the rest of the series, because we've released all at the same time for Patreons over there for just $1. Big shout out and thank you to all my patrons for supporting me so far, and thank you for all your support in 2019, and I look forward to all the things I've got to show you in 2020. Thanks again all, and I'll see you all next time. Bye bye.